Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Del, and with the final story chapters of the Undermine update, we now know where War Within is heading into, as the expansion is likely going to be diving into the world of Ethereals, possibly to the home world of Koresh. And based on all the information that we have so far, whether data mine information that we knew about from a while ago, or the story beats that are heading us towards the expansion of Midnight, eventually being this big void versus light expansion, it does look like 11.2 might be a massive Ethereal focus update. And today I really just want to take a look at everything we know so far regarding what 11.2 could possibly be, taking a look at the data mine content, the features that might be a cornerstone of this brand new update, some of the world changes and seasonal updates they're looking to do as part of the 11.2 season 3 content. And these, what seems like to be an Ethereal focused patch update, may be pretty massive, as it looks like they've actually been working on this thing for quite a little bit of time now. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for the patch 11.1, season 2 content War Within, or future content updates like 0.5, 0.7, or 11.2 coverage, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So we know that currently patch 11.2 is in its internal testing phases over at Blizz. It's not available for us on the PTR for public testing, but they have been working on it internally. In fact, they've actually been really busy. Even before patch 11.1, the Undermine update got released, we found out that they were started making work on 0.5 update, which we took a look at on PTR recently, and hopefully that update will continue to get additional changes. But apparently they've also started working on 11.17, smaller update that precedes the season 3 content, as well as we discovered that an 11.2 build does exist internally. So they already started working on content for the next few patches ahead of schedule, it seems, and it looks like they are getting really a lot of stuff done with it for a while now. It's been a couple of weeks since we found that build, and it looks like we'll be getting it sometime soon, but not for a good bit over on the PTR. But we do know that this major update of 11.2 is likely going to be a big Ethereal focused update, which is quite exciting. The ending of Undermine left us with a cinematic that reveals Ethereals have gotten their hands on the Dark Heart relic, showing an Ethereal holding the relic looking over a precipice of void, which many players assume potentially could be the home world of Ethereals, being Koresh, a world that was torn apart and destroyed by Void Lord Demencius so long ago. And we knew that in fact we will be encountering Ethereals more than once within this expansion, whether you play through the Nerebar Palace raid, and towards the tail end of the raid we had with the Nexus Princess Kaveza making her way into the Queen's Court, talking to some other Ethereal that's probably the head honcho of their empire or tribe or group or organization, whatever Ethereals really have as part of their people. But we also data mined even more items regarding Ethereals way back in the day, with some of those items hinting initially at a goblin raid, which eventually turned out to be the Undermine Zone and Liberation of Undermine instance. But then there was also a bunch of other Ethereal themed items that hint at an Ethereal content marked as Ethereal Raid. It's a placeholder name, but it literally has the words Ethereal Raid in its original titling for some of those items. On top of it, Ethereals are a very mysterious race, but it's been around since Burning Crusades, and they've been an awesome race, and many in the community appreciate seeing them and meeting them here and there throughout expansions. For most players, they usually appear as vendors or simple quest givers, or helping us acquire unique items for certain expansions, or maybe even just transmog our items. But what's cool about them is some of the history, the story, and how it's so mysterious where they come from, what they are, kind of where the people are scattered in. But players usually get excited when they see them show back up again, and Kaveza showing up in Nerebar Palace was a really awesome moment that made us think, okay, we're definitely going to be diving a little bit more into Ethereals, and it's going to be really cool to explore a little bit of their backdrop, which we usually can really derive from just quest text mostly, but it would be really cool to go back to the homeworld and explore that type of like broken up culture. And it's not like we've done it before. I mean, in Legion, we literally went to Argus, so traveling through space and time to a broken up world, it's not really out of the realm of possibility for what we've been able to do in the past. And I imagine a lot of players would be super excited to see exactly more regarding the ethereals, the homeworld, the culture, the history, and the environments that potentially may have left the world as part of an 11.2 update. A while ago too, we also data mined a bunch of ethereal customization options. Like the ethereals themselves got some brand new models and quite a lot of additional details to them. To some degree, you can actually see this detail right now if you've gotten Kaivez's toy trinket. Okay, I don't have the toy in the PTR, but I will get some footage over from the live realms, but you can more or less see the models. They don't look as good on live, but what we've been able to data mine from PTR has been highly detailed, and they have a lot of customization options to them. Normally when they add NPCs, and likely we'll see ethereals as walking NPCs, vendors, and enemies for us to fight against, they usually get a handful of appearance presets, just enough to create a little bit of variety, but with so many characters being kind of like a backdrop character, they don't really get too many new options. However, ethereals look fairly detailed, and they seem to have a number of new customization options. Many players have wondered and begun to wonder if ethereals might be made up potentially a playable race going forward. And when a brand new race gets a lot of details added to them with a ton of different presets and ton of different combinations, sometimes it does mean that Blizz is attempting to make them a playable option. Not always, however, but it's one of those things that got players speculating, and there are a few signs that can show us that, yeah, they might potentially be making these guys possibly playable. But to make a race properly playable though, it needs to have a couple of different features. One of them, lots of customization options, usually being one indicator. So if a race has a lot of detailed variability in terms of how you can customize and change up their looks, and if they have like a lot of details on the actual skeleton, the textures, all of those things, usually that detail is meant to be played as a player rather than be put as a backdrop, which usually is what they do with NPCs. Also, if a race can potentially wear current armor that's available in the game and can equip it and it actually shows up on their model, that's usually another indicator that says that maybe this thing is meant to be playable. Kind of like how the Heronir, which can actually fully wear all of the new War Within items because they essentially have a night elf, troll-ish skeleton, but they're able to wear all of the current armor that we can wear right now, which would make them a possible candidate for an allied race, for instance. And I'm also surprised that we haven't gotten Heronir as an allied race yet, but maybe they're saving that for potentially a 0.7 update, maybe sometime in the future, who knows really. However, that's also not always the case though, as Naga and Vrykul can technically wear all of the normal items that we can, shoulders, and even for Naga, certain items can wrap around their tails, like shoes for example. But even if those things can be worn by those races, they are not playable. They're still missing one little string that does make them a little playable. It's something that just programmed internally in that race optimization that allows it to be piloted by a player. It is something that was there for Kultirans, the Zandalari, the Volpera, and all the other allied races that players could actually play. And I guess the question is, will ethereals possibly have this one thing in them? Because this seems to be the main key element that certain races are just missing that cannot be played, but it is something that is crucial in order to make them finally playable. Right now it is very difficult to tell with ethereals. We don't really have access to them in terms of data mining until we get a proper PTR build for 11.2. Then maybe we'll get an idea, but many players have begun to wonder if they're getting so many details as potentially to make him as a playable option. If they did, I think they would make for awesome rogues, void hunters, and even shadow priests. And I love the idea of what kind of racials they may have, because you could really do something creative with all the different void themes that you could do between passives and active abilities to boot. And I think a lot of players would be excited if they were potentially be made as an allied race. Maybe a little early, but if you were to add ethereals as a playable option at any point, a big ethereal patch would be the best time to do it if they were planning on adding any more allied races for the War Within expansion. But with the expansion of Midnight and Fall's War Within being a heavily void versus light themed expansion, that would also be another excellent time to possibly add ethereals if they were planning on doing so. No confirmation given by Blizz just yet, but it's still fun to theorize and hypothesize as to what an ethereal playable version could be and how they could potentially achieve it going forward. As part of the roadmap that we have for 11.2, they also list new open world challenges, which is very different than new open world events. We know they're beginning a brand new zone, which will likely be filled with rares and events and world quests and a variety of other activities, very similar to what we saw in Undermine or previous new zones that got added for previous expansions. But they added a specific area called new open world challenges specifically. So I imagine it would be something that's added to make open world content just a little bit harder, but potentially more rewarding. Like technically could fill out your Great Vault by doing open world activities, and maybe they could add some harder challenges in the open world to allow you to get better rewards in your Great Vault, which I think would be very, very exciting. I imagine that would be something similar to maybe what we saw in Dragonflight events, like a portal to the future that's overtaken by Primalists and Elementalists that you could do with a Bronze Dragonflight, which actually served, at least early in the expansion, as quite a bit of a difficulty. We had to hold out these forts against fairly strong elite enemies that you could not tackle solo. Even as a tank, some players were struggling with it, and you really needed other players and some group coordination to be able to fight off the threat, to fight a sizably strong boss that could one-shot players, but had mechanics that were clearly visible. Or like a flame druid invasion that they had, and early on you could do other smaller tasks to fill up a bar very, very slowly, or fight really difficult elite enemies for many players with some of the best gear at the time to actually have a bit of a harder time fighting them. But if you did defeat them, you get the pretty big sizable upgrade towards your progress bar, where then you were able to summon a final boss, which was also quite difficult. So I wonder if that's kind of where they're heading into, is trying to add some extra content for open world stuff, but add a little bit extra difficulty, but potentially better rewards, because players are not completely allergic to higher difficulty content. Like look at delve players who ask for them to have a reason to dive into tier 11 delves, and they increase the rewards from those, and players are more than happy to meet the challenge of a tier 11 delves and all the enemies and elites and forces that are inside of those delves to be able to overcome them, but for better rewards. And I imagine they could do something like this for open world content, which might be as part of a 11.2 update. They also want to do big seasonal reward refresh this time around. If I really able to do Mythic Plus, raiding, or PvP, this could be potentially a really, really great scenario. For raids, I imagine they're basically just going to do the Galatio track for raids, but add a variety of different rewards, especially if this thing is successful. I mean, the fact that you can raid and there are mounts and pets and variety of different cosmetics and bonuses from raid, and eventually, hopefully, a DNR type of token so you can have some bad luck protection to get some of the best in slot gear for your character. That would be amazing to see. So they'll likely continue to evolve on that system if it's successful for Liberation of Undermine. For Mythic Plus, they actually did add some new rewards, sorta, for the season. They gave players a reason to push some of the harder content with the legend rewards, giving us a recolor of the KSM mount. I think it just could be potentially a starting point though into what other rewards they could add for future seasons. What if they had rotating set of rewards that they added as seasons went on? Maybe one season they gave us a recolor of a legend version of the KSM mount, but maybe the next season they could change it up, so instead of a new mount, it's maybe a transmog set, like a customizable one or a cosmetic one that all classes can wear, but a unique one for unlocking only through Mythic Plus content. Maybe a new unique set of class weapons that you can't get anywhere else, only through Mythic Plus. Maybe even a new weapon enchant, very similar to what PvPers have, but have like a Mythic Plus exclusive one for getting Legend that one season, and then rotate these rewards with every season, so then when players want to play Mythic Plus and they're just there for the Legend reward, they have something new to look forward to every single season. Whether it is slight recolors or slightly new animations, slightly new models, I think stuff like that could really go a long way. And for PvPers, there's a lot of players that are calling for a variety of different rewards for group content, like 2v2 and 3v3 comp-based arenas to get more players involved into that content. It seems like a lot of players are competing in solo content, but there's a lot of players in the PvP community that would love to see a revitalization of the 2v2 and 3v3 brackets. So giving and putting some smaller intermediary rewards that players can reach fairly easy for, like, 1600 rating, 1800, 2k, 2100, anything like that, to encourage more participation in those brackets. This is what a lot of PvPers would love to see. But with that, for now, that is all that we know so far of patch 11.2. And right now, until we get a proper PTR for this build, we have a lot of guesses, speculations, and ideas floating around as to what this patch could be. But it being potentially an ethereal focused experience, I think could be a lot of fun. It gives me an ideas of what places we may visit and what type of environments we may go to. And there's a lot of opportunity for them to really redefine some of the rewards, some of the challenges, some of the activities that you can maybe experience out in the open world. And hopefully we'll start seeing glimpses of this type of content in the future, especially with 11.2 possibly being the last season of War Within expansion. It's possible that they could potentially, instead of having like a fourth faded season, have 3 proper seasons and then lead us into the next expansion, that is Midnight, which would potentially give us more content to experience at a much faster rate instead of giving us some holdover content to enjoy while the next expansion is still waiting to cook in the oven. But as always though, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found the discussion informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community for any of the future updates for patch 11.1 or any of the season 2 content or any of the patch notes when it comes to classes and tuning within the season. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Would you like to play an Ethereal at some point, either as a end of 11.2 or possibly heading into Midnight, or would you rather have another race like the Haronier or someone else entirely? Let me know all those thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.